I never liked weddings. Scratch that, I hated them. The fake smiles, the endless questions from relatives I barely knew. The constant reminder that I was young, single, and apparently running out of time at the age of 22. It was exhausting. So when my cousin decided to host his reception at one of the most extravagant hotels in the city, I knew I was doomed. By the time my aunt cornered me for the third time, insisting I should meet her friend's daughter who studies medicine, I'd already downed more glasses of champagne than I could count. "Still single, Alec?" she asked sweetly, gripping my arm like a hawk. "You should meet her, she's very sweet." I forced a smile. "Maybe later, Auntie." Then I slipped away before she could chain me to another forced introduction. My head spun lightly, and my chest felt tight from the noise in the ballroom. The music, the chatter, the clinking glasses, it was too much. I needed air. That's how I ended up in the hotel lobby. It was quiet there, almost eerily so. The marble floors gleamed, reflecting the golden chandelier lights. A fountain gurgled softly in the middle, water sparkling under the glow. Plush chairs sat neatly arranged, and tall palms lined the corners like watchful guards. For the first time all night, I could breathe. "God," I muttered under my breath, tugging at my tie. "Why do I even bother coming to these things?" I was about to collapse into one of the chairs when my gaze caught on him. He stood near the lounge bar, tall and composed, scrolling through his phone with one hand in his pocket. And he was breathtaking. A perfectly tailored black suit hugged his broad shoulders and long legs. His dark hair was slicked back neatly, exposing a strong jawline with the faintest shadow of stubble. He didn't look like the other guests. His aura was colder, sharper, as though he didn't belong to the noise and chaos of the wedding upstairs. He looked untouchable. My heart stuttered in my chest. The alcohol in my system whispered recklessness into my ear. "Go on. Talk to him. What's the worst that could happen?" Normally, I would have ignored that voice. Normally, I would have sat down quietly, scrolled my own phone, and let the moment pass. But tonight, with champagne humming through my veins, I wasn't myself. Before I could second-guess the decision, my feet were already carrying me across the polished lobby floor. "Hey," I said softly, my voice unsteady. He looked up from his phone. For a second, his expression was unreadable. Then his eyes, piercing gray, cold and calculating, locked onto mine. My breath hitched. Those eyes, they looked like they could slice me open with a glance. Up close, he was even more intimidating. The sharp lines of his face, the way he carried himself, the quiet authority that radiated off him, it made my chest tighten. I should have walked away. Instead, I blurted out the first thought that came to my head. "You look," I swallowed hard, heat rushing to my face. "You look way too handsome to be standing here all alone." The corner of his mouth twitched, but not quite into a smile. One brow arched ever so slightly. "Excuse me," he said. His voice was deep, rich, and smooth, carrying a faint accent I couldn't place. The sound vibrated through me, making my stomach flip. I knew I was drunk. I knew I was making a fool of myself. But instead of apologizing and running away like a normal person, my fingers moved on their own. I reached up, grabbed the lapel of his suit jacket, and pulled him down. Our lips collided clumsily at first, the champagne still buzzing in my head. I expected him to shove me away instantly, maybe even shout at me, maybe call security. But he didn't. He froze for a moment as if caught off guard. Then his hand, large, steady, warm, landed on my waist, holding me firmly in place. My eyes fluttered shut, and I kissed him harder, my heart racing, my body burning with nerves and desire. For a second, I forgot where I was. I forgot the wedding, the lobby, the risk of being seen. It was just me and the stranger, locked in a kiss I never should have started. When he finally pulled back, I was breathless. His gaze was sharp, unreadable, but his lips curved into the faintest smirk. "You shouldn't kiss strangers so recklessly," he said, his voice low, almost dangerous. He leaned in slightly, his breath brushing my ear. "Someone might not let you go so easily." Then he released me, straightened his tie, slipped his phone back into his pocket, and without another word, he turned and walked toward the elevators, disappearing from sight. Leaving me standing there, lips tingling, chest heaving, and heart pounding in confusion. What the hell did I just do? I whispered to myself. The next morning, my head throbbed with the worst hangover of my life. I dragged myself out of bed, downed 2 glasses of water, and tried not to think about the kiss. It was just a stupid drunken mistake, I told myself. He's a stranger. I'll never see him again. Forget it ever happened. By the time I reached campus for my first advanced literature lecture, I had almost convinced myself it was true. I slipped into the classroom, still a little hazy, and sat near the back. Students were already buzzing with excitement about the new semester and the new professor, who was supposed to be brilliant but strict. I rested my head on my desk, muttering, "As long as he doesn't notice me, I'll survive this class." The classroom door opened. Footsteps echoed against the floor. And then a voice, deep, rich, familiar, filled the air. "Good morning. I'm Professor Blackwell." My head shot up. No. He stepped into the room, tall and commanding, dressed in another sharp suit. His gray eyes scanned the class slowly, deliberately, until they landed on me. And when they did, his lips curved into a faint, knowing smirk. I nearly stopped breathing. It was him, the stranger I kissed, the man whose lips I'd tasted just hours before. And now he was my new professor. My pulse hammered against my temples. Professor Leon Blackwell. The man I drunkenly kissed in the hotel lobby. The man who had smirked against my lips and warned me about kissing strangers. And now, he stood at the front of my classroom, commanding the attention of everyone in the room like he owned it. The other students were whispering excitedly. "He's so hot. Do you think he's single? I heard he published books in Europe." I barely heard them. My entire world had narrowed to one point, Leon's eyes. Because they weren't roaming the classroom. They weren't skimming over students' faces. They were locked directly on me. A faint curve tugged at the corner of his mouth. Not a smile. More like a taunt. As if he knew exactly what I was thinking. As if he remembered every detail of the kiss. "Let's begin with introductions," Leon said smoothly, stepping behind the desk. His voice rolled over the room, commanding silence. "Your name, your major, and why you chose this class. Let's start from the back." My blood ran cold. I was in the back. The first student stood, introducing himself nervously. Then the next. My turn was coming closer with every heartbeat. I prayed Leon wouldn't single me out. I prayed he would treat me like any other student. But when the student beside me sat down, Leon's gaze sharpened. "You," he said, his voice low but clear. The one trying to disappear into his seat. The class chuckled. My face burned. Slowly, I rose to my feet. "I am Alec Martinez," I stammered, my throat dry. English major. I took this class because literature's always been a passion of mine. I wanted to sit down and melt into the floor. But Leon tilted his head slightly, gray eyes glinting. "Martinez," he repeated, his voice wrapping around the syllables like silk. "Interesting." I froze. His lips curved, just enough for me to notice. A private smirk. But to everyone else, it looked like nothing at all. "You may sit," he said. I dropped back into my chair, my pulse racing. As the introductions continued, I tried to calm my breathing. I told myself I was imagining it, that Leon wasn't really focused on me, that he had probably forgotten all about the kiss. But then he began the lecture. And every time his eyes swept the class, they lingered on me. It wasn't obvious, at least not enough for anyone else to notice. But I felt it, the weight of his gaze on my skin, the curve of his lips every time he caught me looking. And worse, every word out of his mouth felt laced with double meaning. "Literature," he said at one point, "is about risk. About characters making reckless decisions, choices that change everything." His eyes flicked to me, sometimes with consequences they never imagined. My stomach flipped violently. Was he talking about me? No, that was insane. I was drunk. I probably wasn't even memorable to him, right? But then why was he looking at me like that? The hour crawled by. When Leon finally dismissed us, I practically shot out of my chair, desperate to escape before he could say anything. But as I rushed toward the door, his voice cut through the chatter. "Mr. Martinez." I froze mid-step. Dozens of eyes turned toward me. My classmates were already whispering. Getting singled out on the first day? Not a good sign. "Yes, Professor," I croaked, turning slowly. "Stay a moment," Leon said, his gaze steady, unreadable. "We need to discuss something." My heart sank. I waited until the last student filed out, my palms sweating. When the door clicked shut, Leon leaned casually against the desk, arms crossed. For a moment, silence hung heavy between us. Then he spoke. "So," he said softly, his voice low enough that it felt intimate. "Did your memory improve overnight?" My stomach dropped. I knew exactly what he meant. My voice cracked. "I don't know what you're talking about." One dark brow lifted. His smirk returned, sharper this time. Really? He murmured, stepping closer. His shoes clicked against the floor, slow and deliberate. Each step made my heart race faster. Until he was standing right in front of me, close enough that I could smell his cologne. Clean, expensive, intoxicating. I seem to recall, he said quietly, a bold young man grabbing me by the collar and kissing me right in the middle of a hotel lobby. My entire body went hot. My knees nearly buckled. I was drunk, I blurted out. I didn't know what I was doing. It was a mistake. Leon's eyes glinted. His voice dropped lower, dangerously smooth. A mistake, he repeated. He leaned down, his lips brushing close to my ear. Then why are you blushing now? My breath caught. He pulled back slightly, watching me squirm, and I hated how much my body betrayed me. My heart pounded. My face burned. And deep down, I couldn't stop remembering the way his lips felt against mine. Leon straightened suddenly, stepping back. His expression cooled, his voice turning sharp and professional. This is a university, Mr. Martinez. I'm your professor. Whatever happened last night, forget it. It never happened. Do you understand? Relief and disappointment tangled in my chest. Yes, professor, I whispered. He turned away, picking up a stack of papers from his desk. Good. Because if you keep letting your impulses get the better of you, he glanced at me again, his smirk flickering briefly, you might find yourself in far more trouble than you're prepared for. My chest tightened. He wasn't just warning me. He was daring me, and I didn't know whether to run or to fall deeper. The rest of that week was nothing short of torture. I tried to tell myself that Leon's warning had been final, that after what he said, forget it, it never happened, he would keep things strictly professional, distant, cold. But that wasn't Leon Blackwell's style. Every lecture was a silent war. He'd stroll into the room with that effortless confidence, sleeves rolled to his forearms, tie loosened just enough to make him look sinfully out of place among ordinary professors. And somehow, no matter where I sat, his eyes always found me. Sometimes it was a glance that lasted a heartbeat too long. Other times, it was the faintest curve of his lips when I stumbled over an answer. And then there were the moments that ruined me entirely, when he leaned against the desk, speaking about passion, rebellion, or temptation in literature, and his gaze burned through me like fire. My classmates noticed nothing. To them, he was just an intimidatingly handsome professor. To me, he was a storm I couldn't escape. By Friday, he assigned us our first essay, a critical analysis on forbidden love in 19th century literature. The irony didn't escape me. I spent the weekend in my tiny dorm room, pacing between piles of books and my laptop, chewing my pen raw. My head was supposed to be full of star-crossed lovers and Victorian tragedies, but all I could think of was the feel of Leon's breath against my ear when he whispered, "Then why are you blushing now?" I hated him. I hated the way he could unravel me without lifting a finger. And I hated myself more, because even as I wrote about characters who risked everything for desire, I couldn't help wondering what it would feel like to risk it all for him. By Monday, my essay draft was a mess. I decided to swallow my pride and visit his office hours, praying he'd treat me like any other student. The English department was quiet, the corridors echoing with the faint hum of fluorescent lights. When I reached his door, I froze. The nameplate read, Professor Leon Blackwell. I raised my hand to knock, and before I could, his voice rang out from inside. "Come in, Alec." My stomach lurched. How did he? I pushed the door open. His office was exactly what I expected. Dark wood shelves lined with books, papers scattered in organized chaos, the faint scent of leather and coffee hanging in the air. Leon sat behind his desk, pen in hand, glasses perched on his nose. He looked up, and the corner of his mouth twitched. "Close the door." My fingers trembled as I obeyed. I slid into the chair across from him, clutching my notebook. I needed help with the essay. I can't seem to get the structure right. "Show me," he said simply. I handed over my draft. He read silently, eyes scanning each line. The silence stretched until I thought I'd suffocate. Finally, he set the paper down. "Your writing is strong," he said, his voice smooth. "But you hold back. You analyze the text, but you never bleed into it. Literature isn't about distance, Alec. It's about surrender." My throat went dry. He leaned forward, removing his glasses. His gray eyes locked on mine. "Tell me, do you always hide what you feel?" I swallowed hard. I don't know what you mean." "Yes, you do." His voice softened, almost coaxing. "You're afraid of wanting something you shouldn't. Afraid of crossing lines. Afraid of your own desire." Heat rushed to my face. He was talking about the essay. He had to be. And yet, every word cut straight into the memory of that kiss. I should go, I stammered, standing abruptly. But before I could step away, Leon's hand shot out. His fingers closed gently but firmly around my wrist. Sit. My knees went weak. I sank back into the chair, heart hammering. Leon studied me, his thumb brushing lightly over my wrist before releasing me. The touch lingered like a brand. Do you want to know what your problem is? He asked. My voice cracked. What? You confuse recklessness with weakness. His eyes darkened. When you kissed me that night, you weren't weak. You were fearless. For once, you weren't hiding. That's the Alec I want to see in your writing. My breath caught. So he hadn't forgotten. Not a single second of it. Professor. Leon, he interrupted, his tone a sharp blade. Call me Leon. Just here. Just between us. My chest tightened. I knew I should refuse. I knew I should walk out and never come back. But the way his voice wrapped around my name, it broke me. Leon, I whispered. His smirk deepened. Good. The air between us grew heavy. I could feel it, an invisible pull, dragging me closer, daring me to lean in. His gaze flicked briefly to my mouth, and my heart slammed against my ribs. He wanted me to break. He wanted me to lose control. And God help me, I wanted it too. But just as the space between us throbbed with unbearable tension, he leaned back casually in his chair, the moment shattering like glass. That's all for today, he said smoothly, as if nothing had happened. Bring me a revised draft by Friday. I blinked, stunned. That's it. That's it. He slipped his glasses back on, already reaching for another stack of papers. Unless you'd like to kiss your professor again and test your luck. My heart plummeted. My face burned so hot I thought I'd combust. I shot to my feet, muttering something incoherent, and fled his office. Back in my dorm, I collapsed onto my bed, burying my face in my pillow. What the hell was I doing? I'd come here for an education, not whatever this was. Not to fall under the spell of a man who was untouchable, dangerous, forbidden. And yet, every time I closed my eyes, I saw him. His smirk. His eyes. The way his voice dipped when he said my name. And the cruelest part? He knew exactly what he was doing to me. I should hate him for it. But all I could feel was the ache of wanting more. By the time Friday rolled around, I was a mess. I rewrote my essay a dozen times, each draft more raw than the last. I let myself bleed into the words, writing about passion that devours, about longing that defies logic, about the sharp sweetness of desiring what you cannot have. When I finally turned it in, I couldn't bring myself to look him in the eye. But during class, as he collected our papers, his fingers brushed mine, deliberate, lingering. Better, he murmured so softly no one else could hear. Much better. My pulse thundered. And in that instant, I knew one thing for certain. This wasn't over. It was only the beginning. When Leon handed back our essays the following week, his face was unreadable. Most of my classmates flipped their papers over eagerly, comparing grades, whispering complaints or relief. I tried to do the same, but my essay had no grade on it. Just a single line written in his neat, sharp handwriting. See me after class. My stomach twisted. As the bell rang and everyone filed out, I stayed rooted in my seat, heart pounding. When the last student left, Leon closed the door with a quiet click. Then he turned to me. Walk with me, he said. He led me out of the classroom, down a quiet hallway, and into the near-empty campus library. Afternoon light slanted through tall windows, dust motes floating in the golden glow. It was deserted, just shelves of books and silence thick enough to drown in. He stopped between two tall shelves and turned to face me. Your essay, he said, pulling it from his folder. It was different this time. I swallowed. Different bad or different good? A smirk tugged at his lips. Different honest. Vulnerable. Like you finally let yourself bleed onto the page. My chest tightened. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. You wrote about forbidden desire. About wanting what you shouldn't. About craving someone who could ruin you. Heat shot through me. I looked away. It was just an essay. Was it? His tone was teasing, but his eyes were sharp, searching. Or was it a confession? I forced a shaky laugh. Not everything's about you, Professor. Leon, he corrected smoothly, his gray eyes glinting. I told you. When we're alone, you call me Leon. My heart stuttered. Leon, I whispered, the word tasting dangerous on my tongue. Better. His lips curved. Now answer me honestly, Alec. Was it a confession? I should have denied it. I should have laughed, deflected, walked away. But something inside me snapped. Weeks of stolen glances, whispered taunts, the memory of his hand brushing mine, it all came crashing down. Yes, I admitted, my voice raw. It was. I've been trying to fight it, I said, my words tumbling out in a rush. I keep telling myself it's wrong, that you're my professor, that people would never understand, that I could ruin both our lives if anyone found out. Leon said nothing. He just stood there, watching me with an intensity that made my knees weak. But no matter what I do, my throat tightened. I can't stop thinking about you. About that night. About every second since. And it scares the hell out of me because I broke off, forcing myself to breathe. I think I've fallen in love with you. The words hung in the air, fragile and dangerous. My chest ached. I wanted to run, to hide, but I stood there, waiting for him to destroy me. For a long moment, Leon said nothing. The silence was unbearable. Then he moved. Slowly, deliberately, he stepped forward until my back pressed against the bookshelf. My breath caught. You're reckless, he murmured, his face inches from mine. Do you know what you've just done? Yes, I whispered. He braced one hand against the shelf beside my head, his body close enough that the heat of him seeped into my skin. You've given me the power to ruin you, he said softly. With one word, I could end your academic career. Destroy your reputation. Make you regret ever stepping into my class. My pulse raced. Then why haven't you? His lips curved, not into a smirk this time, but into something darker. Because I don't want to ruin you, Alec, he said. His voice dropped lower, sending shivers down my spine. I want you. And that's what scares me most. The world narrowed to the space between us. His breath brushed against my cheek, his eyes locked on mine, his lips hovering dangerously close. I ached for him to close the distance, to erase the torment of weeks of tension. But he didn't. Instead, he let out a low, shaky laugh. Do you have any idea how dangerous this is? Yes, I whispered. And you still want it? I swallowed hard. More than anything. His eyes softened, just a fraction. For the first time, I saw not the untouchable professor, but the man beneath, conflicted, tempted, fighting the same battle I was. Then we need rules, he said finally. I blinked. Rules. If we do this, his jaw tightened. No one can know. Not your friends. Not your classmates. No one. This stays between us. I nodded quickly. I can keep a secret. And you have to understand, his gaze locked on mine. If anyone finds out, it won't just be your career on the line. It'll be mine too. I know. He leaned closer, his forehead almost touching mine. So tell me, Alec, are you willing to carry that risk? To live with the weight of this secret, just to be with me? We won't be able to go out on date, hold hands, and do what normal couple do? My heart slammed against my chest. I didn't hesitate. Yes, I breathed. I'm willing. His lips hovered over mine, so close I could feel the warmth of his breath. Then it's decided, he whispered. We'll have our secret. And just as I thought he would finally kiss me, finally give me what I'd been aching for, he pulled back, his smirk returning. Not here, he murmured. Not yet. Patience, Alec. I nearly collapsed against the shelf, trembling with want and frustration. Leon turned, adjusting his tie as if nothing had happened, his composure maddeningly intact. Class resumes Monday, he said casually, walking away. Try not to look at me too much, or you'll give us away. And with that, he left me standing in the library, my lips tingling from a kiss that hadn't even happened. But the deal was struck. We were together now, and nothing would ever be the same. The weeks that followed were the sweetest kind of torture. We lived in shadows. Stolen glances in the classroom, careful brushes of hands when no one was looking, texts sent at midnight that left me restless with want. And then there were the late-night office visits. I'd knock softly, and he'd open the door just enough to pull me inside. The room would be dark except for the desk lamp, the shadows making it feel like we were in another world entirely. Sometimes we worked side by side in silence, knees brushing beneath the desk until the tension drove me insane. Other times, we didn't even pretend. His lips would crash against mine, his hands tangling in my hair, his breath hot against my neck as he whispered my name like it was a secret only we were allowed to know. His control was maddening, and yet it made every kiss sharper, every touch more intoxicating. We were a fire contained in a fragile glass. And I knew one day the glass would break. It happened on a Thursday night. I had gone to his office after hours, the halls empty. He locked the door behind me, pressing me against it before I could even say hello. You're late, he murmured against my lips, though his smirk betrayed him. Traffic, I teased breathlessly, kissing him back. We were so wrapped up in each other that neither of us noticed the faint click outside the window. A camera. Someone had been watching. I didn't know it then, of course. Not until the next morning when the whispers began. I walked into class and froze. Every student's eyes snapped to me. Conversations hushed into murmurs. Laughter rose and fell in sharp bursts. My stomach twisted. And then I saw it. On the university website, projected onto the lecture hall's screen, was a photo. Us. Leon's hand cupping my cheek, my lips parted against his in a kiss that left nothing to interpretation. My blood turned to ice. Beside the photo, a headline. Professor Blackwell engaged in inappropriate relationship with student? The room buzzed with scandal. Phones were out, students whispering, snapping pictures, pointing at me. And then Leon walked in. He didn't flinch, didn't falter. He strode to the front of the classroom with the same effortless confidence as always, though his eyes flicked briefly to me, a silent reassurance. The room fell silent. I assume you've all seen it by now, Leon said smoothly, gesturing to the screen. A photo taken without consent. A violation of privacy. His voice hardened. But let's not pretend it's a lie. My heart stopped. Whispers erupted. He looked directly at me, his eyes unwavering. Yes, he said firmly. The man in that photo is Alec Martinez. My student. And yes, we are together. The room exploded. Gasps, exclamations, disbelief. I wanted the ground to swallow me whole. Leon raised his hand, commanding silence. I know what you're all thinking. That I've crossed a line. That I've abused my position. That I've betrayed the trust of this institution. But understand this, Alec is not my victim. He is not a conquest. He is the man I love. My breath caught. Leon's eyes never left mine. And if loving him means sacrificing my career, then so be it. He pulled a folded piece of paper from his jacket pocket, his resignation letter. I am resigning from my position effective immediately, he said clearly. Not because I am ashamed of Alec. Never. But because the world would twist our story into something it isn't. And I refused to let him carry that burden alone. My vision blurred. My chest ached. Around us, students whispered, some shocked, others moved. But all I could see was him, standing tall, unshaken, choosing me in front of everyone. The rest of the day was chaos. Administrators pulled us aside, meetings were scheduled, rumors spread like wildfire. But through it all, Leon's hand never left mine. When the sun set, we finally escaped to his apartment, our sanctuary. For the first time, there were no shadows, no secrets, no rules. Just us. We collapsed onto his couch, the weight of the world crashing down. I buried my face in his chest, trembling. I'm sorry, I whispered. This is all my fault. He tilted my chin up, his eyes soft but fierce. No, Alec. Don't you dare blame yourself. If anyone's at fault, it's me. I should have walked away the night you kissed me. But I couldn't. Because I wanted you too much. Tears pricked my eyes. I was so scared. Of ruining your career. Of people hating us. Of being a mistake. He pressed his forehead to mine. You're not a mistake. You're the best damn decision I ever made. And then he kissed me, not like a secret, not like a sin, but like a promise. Weeks passed. The scandal faded faster than I expected. A few angry articles, some judgmental whispers, but soon, new gossip took its place. Leon found work at a private publishing house, his reputation scarred, but his spirit unbroken. I stayed in school, determined to finish my degree. And through it all, we remained together. No longer hiding. No longer afraid. Every kiss was ours to claim. Every glance was ours to own. We weren't professor and student anymore. We were simply Alec and Leon. And against all odds, we had survived.